In Poland's daily COVID-19 cases have risen by around 70% in the past week to over 2,000, according to a government official on Wednesday, warning the country that a fourth wave of the outbreak is gathering pace. Poland's health service was stretched to its limits in the spring by a third wave of pandemic that saw daily cases exceed 35,000. But authorities believe vaccinations will help control the number of infections this autumn. Dr. Cmtte is a member of the steering committee, the World Medical Association, and he joins us from Poland on the program virtually. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right. The latest data on COVID-19 cases in Poland has been referred to as a very fast flashing red lights by a deputy health minister. Is a fourth wave truly imminent, and what's the cause?
Well, to come up with such a conclusion, there are a lot of factors we have to consider. Right now in Poland, we have a situation with doctors as they are on what is known as a silent strike. Doctors are now less reluctant to go to work because during the COVID time, when COVID had first, started, the whole pandemic, a lot of doctors were taking extra hours and working and getting tired, overworking themselves, and they asked the government to increase their pay, which the government did not. As such, less and less doctors are now keen on working. And you find that there's more and more patients in need of medical services, and they cannot get them because of this. And also, another factor would be that most people in Poland are just not really interested in taking the vaccine. Some of it can be attributed to personal beliefs. Some of it can be the fact that unlike in the African hemisphere, the Western hemisphere, the people here, they tend to want their legal rights respected, their civil rights, and if the government tries to infringe on their rights in any way, they rebel.
It appears that, those you've talked about who are perhaps hesitant to the vaccines are centered in the southern and eastern regions of Poland. We understand that people there, many of them, decided not to get vaccinated.
Yes, as I said before, it's mainly due to personal beliefs, and also I'm pretty sure you've noticed how this whole vaccine thing, how fast it was. That as soon as coronavirus hit the globe, companies like Pfizer, Moderna started producing vaccines, and people were very skeptic. And not a lot of people would follow healthcare professionals' advice because, even the healthcare professionals cannot give a straightforward answer as to how safe it is, because as we have seen in the past few months, that a lot of some people have had adverse reactions to these vaccines that have been produced.
And indeed, the healthcare workers would have to be convinced first before they can share that knowledge. But would you also say, what's your overall assessment of the pace of the country's vaccination program?
Well, generally, the Polish government has tried to introduce several incentives to try and persuade people to get vaccinated, some of them being monetary, where the Polish government has decided to open 1 million zloty, which is around 225,000 pounds lottery, to try and persuade a lot of people to get vaccinated. That way, they stand a chance to win this large sum of money. And they've also tried to incentivize small towns and small cities to get their people vaccinated, their local governments to get their people vaccinated, in order for these governments to get some funding from the central Polish government. So generally, everyone is just trying to get people vaccinated without infringing on their rights, and by trying to persuade them with things that they love, such as money.
Amongst other things, I'm sure. But then, Dr. Tinashe, with what restrictions currently exist in Poland at the moment? And do you think with this progression to fourth wave, could there be further restrictions on the economy?
I'll say right now, with regards to the economy, you can see that like every country suffered drastically because of the pandemic, and every country is now trying to find a way to try and pick themselves up in order to get back to that economic position they once held. To say that the fourth wave coming would affect the economy would be a bit, I would say it would be a bit short-sighted, because as I've stated, the government has tried to introduce several incentives to try and get people vaccinated. Right now, they are now trying to have anyone above the age of 50 to get a third shot, or these booster shots, to try and increase the person's immunity to the COVID virus. And they've also set up a hotline on their government website, as well as several other rules that people need to follow, like the 1.5-meter distance from a person if you're standing in a line, wearing masks in places where they're heavily populated, or public transport, as well as for those coming into and out of Poland, you need to have a document that states that you have been vaccinated. And you also need to take a COVID test to see if you are not infected within the next 48 hours of your arrival into the country.
All right.
So there are several measures that the Polish government has taken in order to protect its citizens.
We appreciate your time. Dr. John Tinashe is a member of the Steering Committee, World Medical Association, joining us from Łódź in Poland. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me. Have a good day.